Hello and welcome to another Every Tuesday tutorial. In this week's tutorial, we're going to create some chalk typography without using chalk at all. So as you can see on my screen, this is the final outcome of the tutorial this week, and I will also show you, if you're not interested in having colored chalk, I will show you how to create it without chalk or without color too, so it does look like just plain old white chalk. So we'll just jump right in and get started. The first thing that you need to do before you can bring it on the computer is you need to draw whatever you're going to draw, whether it's an illustration or actually typography like I've done here, or kind of a mixture of both, I guess. Just draw it out on a plain old sheet of paper. Printer paper is fine, that's what I did, and just regular #2 pencil, or any kind of pencil you want really. It's just got to be dark enough to be picked up by either, you can photograph it with your phone, a camera. I scanned mine in, so that's what I'm using, but very, very simple. Just draw a sketch. So this was my original sketch right here, which ends up turning into this once we involve Photoshop into it. So once you have your sketch brought in to Photoshop, we're going to make some adjustments, and then we'll bring in the color, and then we'll be done. This one's a really quick one this week. So all we're going to do is we need to create our background layer as an editable layer. So I'm just going to double click on the background layer, and now it's editable. And if you want to come in and maybe there's some like little discrepancies, like you can see this is kind of a dark little mark right here that I don't need. I don't know, maybe there's one right here too. We can get rid of those really easily just using our rubber stamp tool. So if I hit S on my keyboard, I can use my rubber stamp tool. You can also use your healing brush content aware tool if you're familiar with that. I just like using the rubber stamp tool for little ones because I know it's going to show up exactly how I want it, whereas content aware sometimes pulls from different spots that I don't want it to pull from. All that said, you can just do this. So hit S on your keyboard, that activates your rubber stamp tool. You have to define an area where you're going to pull the texture that's going to replace this area with. So I always like keeping it fairly close so it's same darkness. So I'm just going to hold Alt on my keyboard and click. This is where the fill derives from. So you can see it's already filling up where my brush is. And then I'm just going to click, or I guess my stamp in this case. And then over here, I'm going to reduce the size of my stamp slightly. I'm just doing that by hitting the open bracket key on my keyboard. I'm going to hold Alt, click, and then click to cover it up. And that's pretty good. I kind of like how smudgy it is and kind of imperfect because that's what chalk is. So I'm going to leave the rest as it is. So I'm going to zoom out, and the first thing we're going to do is invert the selection. All you have to do is hit Command-I or Control-I if you're on a PC, and that makes it look like this. So it makes all the blacks white and all the whites black. So from here, obviously this doesn't look anything like our outcome. It's kind of faded. It actually looks a little bit yellow in places. So we're going to fix that right now. And we're going to do that using our adjustment panel right over here. If you don't have this open, you can get to it by going Window, Adjustments, and you'll get the same exact panel. And the first setting that I always use is my brightness contrast. So I'm just going to click this little icon right here, and this panel will show up. And as soon as it does, all I'm going to do is drag this little contrast node all the way to the right, 100%. And then I'm going to drag my brightness slightly. Like I want it bright, but I don't want it too bright because I still need some darks in here and there, so it does look like chalk. And you can see it's already starting to look like chalk as a whole, but as I mentioned before, there is a little bit of yellow going on, so we're going to get rid of that right now. And we can do that by clicking on this hue saturation icon. Once you do that, the only one that we're going to touch in here is the saturation node, and we're just going to drag it all the way to the left. That desaturates the image, so there's no color showing, so this really is white now. And that's looking really good. So if all you wanted was a black and white chalk image, you're basically done right here. But if you want to take it a little bit further, I'll show you how to do that. This next adjustment you don't have to do. I always like doing it because I feel like it gives it a little bit more punch. So I'm just going to click on this levels icon right here, and you'll see we've got kind of like a gray node, and we've got a black node and a white node. So the closer the white node gets to the gray node, the brighter your whites will become. The closer the black little node gets to the gray node, the darker your blacks will become. So I want to make my whites whiter, so I'm just going to click and drag slightly to the middle. And as you can see, it got pretty white when I did that, and I really like that. I don't want it to get too white again, but I like how much contrast I'm getting. It really stands out, which is exactly what I want it to do. And if I drag the black a little bit, you'll notice it does get darker. It gets a little bit grainy, and maybe that's good if you want this really rough chalk texture going on. I think I'm going to keep a little bit, but not too much. Like, that feels pretty good to me. And you can see if I turn off this levels adjustment, you can see the difference that just that adjustment layer makes. So once you're happy, you can also stop right here if you're satisfied with it just being white. And now I'm going to show you how to add some color to it. So just to keep everything separate from my color and my original black and white image, I'm going to group these layers together that I've got. So I'm just gonna, since this top layer is already selected, I'm gonna hold Shift and click on the bottom layer to select them all, and then I'm gonna hit Command G or Control G on a PC to group them together. And now I'm gonna add a new layer, and this new layer is gonna be my first color layer, and I'm going to start with a light blue. Like you saw over here, we've got blue around the border, and we've got blue on a few words right here. So that's the first one I'm gonna do. So over here, this is your foreground color and this is your background color. Let me go to the default. And we want to use a brush, so we're going to be brushing whatever color is in our foreground color. So I'm going to click on the foreground color, and then I'm just going to pick any blue that I like. I'm going to keep it light because I still want it to stand out. So I'm going to hit OK when I find a blue. And then I'm going to hit B on my keyboard to activate my brush tool. And the important thing to know is that when you're doing this, you want to use a hard brush. You don't want any soft edges. So this would be a soft brush, and this is a hard brush. And you can tell by looking at hardness, if it's all the way 100%, that means it's a hard brush. So your edges will be hard. So I'm just going to reduce the size of this slightly again. I'm hitting the open bracket key on my keyboard to do that. And then I'm going to zoom in nice and close, and I'm just going to paint over these words that I want to change to blue. So I want to change that, and I want to change these. I'm just doing this with my mouse really loosely. And then I also wanted to use this border, the skinnier border right here, and make that blue as well. If you get kind of too close, you can just Command Z or Control Z it to undo it and then redraw it. There's also another little trick to making straight lines. If you just click once and then hold Shift, it'll make a straight line. So that'll kind of save you time if you've got some straight elements like I do here. If you've drawn them straight, which luckily enough I've got, I did draw some of mine fairly straight, so it's working. That's good. So that makes this process quite a bit quicker. Okay, so now that we've got all of our blue areas defined, I'm just going to come over here, and where this is your blend mode, I'm just going to toggle this down and choose multiply. Once I do that, it looks like all these areas were actually drawn with blue chalk. So we'll move on. I'm going to do this echo part next, just because I want to show you another little trick that you can use. So this part was purple, so I'm going to grab a purple really quick, and that's a good one. And then I'm just going to, let me get close to these edges with a smaller brush, and then I'm just going to big brush the whole thing. It doesn't matter if you got like squiggles over here, as long as it doesn't cover anything that you would have wanted a different color over there. So I'm just going to make this brush big now. I'm using the close bracket tool to do that, and that makes it really quick. And now I'm just going to set that to multiply again, and now all of that is colored. Now, just kind of because of what my quote is saying, echo kind of fades as it goes out, which is why I drew it this way. So this last edge right here, this outline, I would like to make more faded than the rest of this, since it's the last one. So I'm just going to create a new layer right here, and I'm going to show you what I do to fade that. Kind of a little trick. So I'm just going to come over here to my foreground color once again, and I'm going to choose a dark gray, and I'm going to paint over the purple because I still want it to be purple, which is why this is on a separate layer on top of it. So it's just a kind of a fade layer, I guess you could consider it. So I'm like really quickly and loosely drawing over this. Obviously I would take more time on this. Okay, it's pretty good for a mouse, right? Okay, so now all of this is colored, and I'm just going to set this one to multiply. Because it's a gray, you can see it really faded it out. And if it's too faded out, because I still want people to notice that there is an outline right here, and this seems a little too faded for me, I can change my opacity. If I change it to 50%, that's too much. Let's do like 80%. That's much better. So you can tell that it's faded here. So that's just a little trick. And I could even do that another time with this other outline that I've got going on, but I won't make you sit through that. So the next color we're gonna use is an orange for voice. Right over here, I'm gonna grab just whatever orange looks good. And I'm gonna brush this out. Okay, so change this to multiply. And I also want to do these dots too. So let me just do that. And now our very last color layer is yellow. So I'm going to change this over here to a yellow. That's good. Okay, and then change this to multiply. And there we go. That was really fast to put together some typography that's colored chalk. So that's how to create chalk type without any chalk involved at all. You just need a pencil, a sheet of paper, and either a scanner or something that can take a picture and send that picture to your computer. And you need Photoshop, obviously. So if you enjoyed this tutorial, please subscribe. Also head on over to my blog, every-tuesday.com, for even more tutorials and design freebies. And I release a new tutorial every single week. So if you subscribe, I will see you next week. Thanks for watching.